topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Hello, and welcome to It's Your Voice, the show that hosts enriching conversations in diversity. My name is Bahia Yaksan. I am a core alignment coach, a diversity educator, and I'm delighted to have this platform to host amazing human beings who have very important messages to share. Our primary guest today is Diana Almendariz, and she invited a co-guest, Anuj Vaidya, and the show episode is called Cultural Discipline, and it springs from Diana's incredible extensive work with ecosystems, botany. She has a lot of incredible experience. I'm going to read her a little bit of bio because she's just phenomenal. Diana Almendariz is a cultural practitioner and educator, a tender and gatherer of Maidu, Wintun, Hupa, Yurok descendancy, and has decades of environmental expertise and experience. And that's why she framed this show, Cultural Discipline. I really look forward to her message. She's definitely uniquely qualified to center cultural justice, environmental justice, and food justice with all of her expertise on indigenous plants. And as I said, incredible experience and knowledge. And she also offers generously to teach traditional knowledge and practices that are critically needed. I'm really, really grateful for her and that she shares this knowledge so generously with so many human beings. And before I bring her and Anuj on, I just wanted to thank the listeners and viewers for being here again. And I also just want to express gratitude to all the peaceful protesters out there in the world making a statement so peacefully reflecting the desire for our federal government and ICE agents to stop being cruel and harming individuals, whether they're U.S. citizens or not. The brutality is extremely painful, even just to witness. Everyone in this land is due process, and we all know that, and are just feel also very apologetic for the poor leadership our country is currently running under, using intimidation and violence with severe misinformation. And also it's kind of an embarrassment for a lot of Americans to the rest of the world. Really appreciate our neighbors above Canada and Mexico and their leaders in Europe, and also sending out thanks and love to leaders in Greenland. And we hear you. There's a lot of support in America, and I hope we start reflecting that more positively through our government as well. So I want to bring on Anuj Vaidya, and please also always correct my pronunciation. I always have to tell people how to pronounce my name. I know the feeling. I apologize.
It's all good. You were right on. That was perfect.
Wonderful. Great. And I think Diana is trying to get back on. I'm just looking at my phone. Well, Anuj, do you mind introducing yourself while I send her a little note so she can join us? Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me on the show, Bahia. And thank you, Diana, who is en route, for inviting me to this conversation. I'm Anuj Vaidya, and I moved here to Wintun, homeland, what is now the city of Davis, in 2016 to start a PhD in the performance studies graduate group. And at that time, when I started the project that I came in with was a retelling of the South Asian epic, the Ramayana, as a Sitayana, and retelling this epic in the voice of the female protagonist of this 3,000-year-old tale. And she's a daughter of the earth. And so it was retelling this epic in the voice of through an ecological lens. And Sita really emerges as forest within this story in my retelling. So I was trained as a media artist, and I'm an arts educator, and really that was my performance practice and my media practice is what brought me to this homeland, Wintun homeland, to study at UC Davis. And in the process of studying, I realized that the Ramayana epic actually has shaped the relationship between forests and cities in India for 3,000 years, and has really shaped our views in India of tribal communities and of indigenous peoples. And so my advisor suggested that I go to India and actually study with forest communities to see what was happening. And so my PhD took me to Bombay, where I studied with the Warli people who live in the forests of Bombay, and the Koli people who live in the intertidal forests of Bombay. And so Bombay has about 30,000 acres of forest within city limits, within which there's about 10,000 tribal members who live there from the Warli
Wow.
community. And they live side by side with megafauna such as leopards, and and depending on where you are in the forest, some of them live like they have traditionally for centuries, if not millennia. Um, and then there's also the intertidal forests, which are the mangrove forests that, 70% of them have been decimated in the last 200 years. But these have been tended to and stewarded by the Koli people. And, Bombay is a city. In studying, I realized actually there's a lot of similarity between Bombay and the Sacramento Valley. Both, Bombay was established only in the 1850s. And it's a 200-year-old city. And it's very much a colonial city that was built by the British out of a bay. They kind of bridged 7 islands to build this city. And what was kind of like a quiet series of islands, an archipelago really, and an estuary has become this megalopolis, right? And that is because indigenous peoples have been dispossessed. And so I went there to study with them and to really tell their stories of what was happening in Bombay. I worked with the Warli people and the Koli people. And when I came back in 2020, when the pandemic hit, and I had no way of going back to continue this work. And so in that moment, I kind of turned to what was happening here in Yolo County. And that was the gift the pandemic gave me in some ways. That was a silver lining. For me, was really getting oriented to telling stories of land and water, not from my homeland, India, but in this homeland, my adopted homeland, right? And so I began to really think about what my commitments were to the place I started to call home. And it was in that moment that I got introduced to Diana Almendariz and to the Cache Creek, to the tending and gathering garden at the Cache Creek Conservancy and Nature Preserve, and an indigenous-led garden. Yeah.
Well,
Is
I'm
Diana
sorry to
here?
interrupt. That is all very fascinating. We're going to have you come back to talk about
Yes,
more.
absolutely.
But Diana is here. So,
Perfect.
and thanks for bringing us, Diana. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi, thank you.
So good to see you.
Thanks for being there, Anuj. I knew it.
Of course. Of course.
He just gave us a fascinating introduction of his background and research, and wow, it's just incredible. And then how he connected with this land and you.
So you came at the perfect timing, actually.
Yeah, it was, because that was a good preface to this, because everybody has their getting away from their homeland story,
right?
To find freedom here. Unfortunately, freedom isn't what everyone thought it was at this moment, but this is definitely the reception we had. in America as far as telling other people, oh, it's freedom, go, go. But then what they were doing was taking our land, laundering it by giving it to them, you know, and saying, if you do this, we'll give you 40 acres, you know, but it really wasn't theirs to give away. There were dealings to go through. So that's a story that was hidden in history, you know, and it's a story that I've had to live with all my life. And understanding it is the other part, you know, because I wasn't given all the pieces. You know, no Native person was given all the pieces to that, not unless you lived it. And I kind of seen that tragedy through my grandmother. She hid it very well with her humor, but, you know, her being such a desirable person, everybody just loved her, called her grandma, everybody. I mean, just everybody did. And, you know, and so it was very heartwarming that she had built this strong relationship with so many pioneers and most of the Native American population of California at the moment. But that was my grandma, Bertha Norton. So with that in mind, I would just like to say for everybody that's listening, and to you, Bahia and Anuj, welcome. Welcome to my homeland.
Thank you
so much.
I'm able to be able, thank you, where I can be able to teach and about the animals and the plants and and recognize the land for what it is, of its beauty for what it is as a native habitat. Welcoming the native flowers back, the native trees, the native plants, everything. And how we can all find the source to relate to it. Because California definitely has got everything in it, you know, coast, mountain, desert, everything, the wetlands, the rivers and creeks. It's just an amazing place that has all these built-in reflections of the environment all over the world. And I really do mean that. Yeah.
Thank you for welcoming us and for tending it, and for your grandmother and your other relatives for centuries, keep sustaining it and keeping it incredibly beautiful and alive. It is an amazing land, and amazing what you do.
Well, thank you.
And thank you for your generosity, Diana. I know, you know, just the amazing generosity with which you share what is really close and important knowledge. And so we are grateful for the trust, which then comes with a set of reciprocal actions that are required to hold that trust, which is,
Yeah, and that's kind of like where we're at right now. Is I've always talked about discipline. And I think a lot of times discipline, and there's a lot of words, and the way we communicate with each other, it's like we have to find out whether we're relating in the same level with each other. And a lot of times it has to do with the definition of words. You know, like indigenous was one we had to get through, you know, which is like, I'm indigenous to California. I'm an indigenous native, but it doesn't mean that if you were born here means that you're indigenous. It means you're, you know, you're born into this. This could be your homeland. This is where you were born, your home. But as far as indigeneity, that reflects where you come from, you know, where your body is created from the soil, or that's the way I see it. So by being indigenous Californian, that means and I could say that sitting here in Sacramento, because I'm a native Native Maidu who comes from Sacramento. And then when I'm in Yolo, when I say it, I am. I'm an indigenous Wintun, Patwin Wintun. Right. Yeah. And fortunately, I got the Hupa and Yurok behind me too. You know, but for the most part, I'm half California Indian and 25% more Cherokee and Aztec, and then Irish and English. So how that all works out, it's all love of culture. My grandma talked a lot about the Irish and how they had a strong culture, you know, and they even had songs, and she would tell me, you know, and I did get to listen to some of the tapes of Irish tenders and how they would stomp, to smash foods and stuff. And up in Plumas County, there was some Irish people that still did that cultural activity, and then yeah, so the English a little different, but the part that I've related to is the last name Norton, which is a native English name. And anyway, so not sure exactly what kind of culture that was in that part of the name. I've just heard them tell me, well, that's the ones who make motorcycles, the Norton. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going, okay. Come from Norton Motorcycles.
Well,
But,
it just created a brilliance through your family, at which you carry on. And I'm curious, can you say more about cultural discipline?
yes. And this comes from how I feel, like I said, I'm relating to the land indigenously. And so if I was to go into Ohlone territory and start talking to them, my first question to them is, so what are your taboos, that you follow? I don't want to do anything to offend you. So what might I need to avoid and relate, what you do culturally that I need to accept right now while I'm on your land, because I don't want to offend you, and so that's discipline, understanding that, and I'm requesting it, not, and they could tell me whether they would appreciate me participating or not in that belief, because they may say, oh, you don't have to worry about it, but this is what we would do, and or you need to do this. And I've had that done to me with a Miwok person when I was at an event, and I was teaching cultural stuff, and so of course I was asking, what's culturally that you wanted to know about Thule, or I can share with you what I know. I can share this with you and how I make it, and speak to you as a Maidu and Wintun culture that I got it from, which would have been my grandmother. So so that way they know what culture they're receiving it from and how I'm doing it and using it. So then that way they can tell me, oh, I think it was about the same, or they'll say, it's a little difference. We had a different doll. That's what I heard from Pomos. We have a different doll. It's not like yours. When it came to our our native doll that grandma taught me, the Wintun did the same thing. It had the same doll. That was it. It was the Wintun side. So again, there it fell into their hands as being culturally identified. Like, hey, they could look at that doll and say, yeah, that's the kind of doll we had. Where Ohlone don't have that doll. Miwok didn't have that doll, but they might have had some kind of doll that we don't know of, or they may have lost it from their culture. So to be able to speak at them with such a real relative type of voice, because then we sit and get concerned, like, yeah, you're right, I might not appreciate you copying what I'm going to teach, but if you show me how to use the material, then that would be wonderful, you see. And so then I go into how you would dry Thule or use it, how you can use it. Well, then let's make cordage. I don't think anyone's going to get offended by me doing cordage, and so that's pretty much the same thing. It's like, yeah, that doesn't bother me at all, making cordage. Again, that's the discipline that I make that step to ask them, what would offend you, what doesn't, what would, and I need to know, because I don't want to step on your toes. I want this to be true. So I'm burning native plants similarly, like what I'm saying, and I'm burning the way I would need them. But if someone else needs that plant and needs to have it burned, and we have it growing, and then I'm going to want to know if they have enough materials, if I can grow this for myself in this territory the way I want to. I know sourberry is something the Miwok have a lot of access to. So I won't worry about burning what I have for me to use, for Maidu or Wintun to use. You see what I mean? it's being considered in that way. And the first big lesson I had was everybody, and what I've learned is about Coyote being a trickster. He's a trickster. He does this to you. He does that to you. And in a way, at that point, if you call someone, oh, that person over there, they're a coyote. They're coyote. So they're saying that they're a trickster. Watch out. But that is so wrong in some other cultures, like coastal peoples, the different varieties, a different variety might say that, no, that's not true. You're offending me, because to us, the coyote is our creator. He's the one that made the world aware of us. He's our creator. So, I got to really be careful, because it could be a big mistake. And that's where the discipline comes in, to make sure, not just in those areas that I said, but in any areas, any areas that you may want to talk to them about how they view land ownership, how they view stewardship. Should only be done by men, should only be done by women, all kinds of different things like that. So as you go along and go to different lands and talk to them, if you just have that in your mind, then you're showing them much respect by offering the types of disciplines that you're aware of, that I'm going to make a mistake, I'm going to say something wrong, and I want to be able to correct that if I did, and catch me. And I feel sensitive enough that if you tell me afterwards, I'll be okay, So that's what important discipline is, respecting their words pretty much, and asking for it. So discipline can be done with acorn too. It's all the way around, it's how they brought it in. Like, I live in the open valley. I can dry my acorn. People in the mountains with lots of snow can't always dry their acorn. So they need to get to it and do it the way they need to. Bertha Mitchell, who is Patwin Wintun, did her acorn preparation a lot different than my grandma, Bertha Norton. And because Bertha Norton, my grandma, was operating from a knowledge of Maidu culture to do acorn. Bertha Mitchell was operating from total Patwin. So she has a Patwin way of doing acorn. Baby baskets, the same way. That's how you identify them. And then they have different patterns that identify that culture too. Even if it had feathers around the edge, they used to say pomo style, they have feathers on it. They used to say that. You can identify a basket if it has feathers on it, it's pomo. That's not true. Because I was the one that was offended, going, no, my grandma, who was full-blooded Patwin, made a feather basket for my grandma, who she asked me to search for if I ever see it or hear about it, because it was taken from her at a young age. She shouldn't have had it taken from her. And so she just had that need inside her. So I'd ask people about it. And one person said, you mean your grandma had a pomo basket? And I'm going, no. She had a Patwin basket, and it had feathers on it. Yes.
Wow,
So yeah. So right now, people are starting to understand that. I'm seeing more understanding that in that direction. So I'm glad. But grandma needed to be able to be heard, to be able to get that broadcast out there. So that's what I mean by discipline.
Well, thank you for expounding on that.
Can I offer just a perspective of someone who's coming to this knowledge, and the way, to receive this knowledge, what discipline has meant first of all, actually just coming with humility, and like cultural humility, to say, okay, I know that, and this is exactly what Diana was talking about herself when she was working with Miwok culture bearers or knowledge keepers, right? Like the way she went with humility, I felt like is exactly what the generosity that Diana any indigenous culture bearer offers, right, or knowledge keeper offers, requires us to come to that knowledge with humility, knowing that we might make a mistake and that we are ready to accept the mistakes we make, apologize for them, and not just keep apologizing, but actually change our habits so that we don't need to apologize in the future because our actions are actually doing that work, right? So how do we align, first coming with humility and then aligning our actions with what is being, with the knowledge that is being given to us, right? And so that we are always centering the homeland knowledge and beginning with homeland knowledge. And Diana's always telling us to, you know, bring our learning and our cultures here, but to not try to change California to our homeland, but to hold that knowledge and take the knowledge we learned from here back to our homelands, right? And so because each place is going to have the same practice show up differently because the environment and the people and the place is different. So I think for us in Yolo Soul, we actually worked with Diana to create a memorandum of understanding that was a document where Diana told us her story of how she came to her knowledge, the people she learned with and she honors, her genealogy, so that we can understand that we are actually learning not only from her, but from her particular ancestors. And then we made two lists. One was about the harms that we want to avoid that have historically been done, and how do we keep aware of those harms so that we don't repeat them, and another list which is a set of commitments that we made to Diana and to the knowledge to always actually keep the knowledge within the indigenous community or within the homeland community, so that it's the next generation of Native youth who are going to teach and lead with this knowledge, right? So that we're not taking this knowledge and monetizing it or turning it into a transaction. Really, our role as allies and as people who are so lucky to call this beautiful land home, is to actually show up in the right way to make sure that the indigenous knowledge keepers get to keep the knowledge into the future, which they will generously share with us if we show up with discipline and in the right way, right? And so, yeah, so that has been the journey for us in the last 5 years. And it's an ongoing journey. I think it's a lifelong journey of learning and of being self-reflexive.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that, Anush.
Of course. Thank you for that.
And the piece I wanted to add, I deeply appreciate what you each have brought, is that it's based on relationship building, right? If I don't have a relationship with you or a way to even open or begin a relationship, it has to be with respect and openness, and I love that model of asking for permission. Like, that's just feels like the right way to be a courteous, kind, respectful, curious human being, without imposing. And we have to listen to the answer. It might be no, that's not yours to know, or I might or might not share it with you, but it's not yours to co-opt. It's not yours to take.
Unfortunately, I do feel that way about some things because I've seen it happen so many times, like with elderberry, blue elderberry, how there is a reason to use it, but they're taking it and making it the reason for everything, on every medicine, on everything. And it bothers me, because there can be mistakes, because it is poisonous, the sticks and leaves of it. And people get careless in industry, because you're not always there to see everything. But that's one of the reasons why our people would do it carefully, that, and there's one safeguard is when you are home making things, it's home prepared. It makes sense, because, even the leaves to and the sticks to tomatoes are poisonous, so there's that part of it that is known how to pull it away from all of that. And it just needs to be it can't be done to elderberry because those berries are so small. But yeah, you just got to be really careful. And so um, it's just that way. They a lot of other different things too, like like we have a group called the Basket Weavers, um, California Indian Basket Weavers Association, CIBA. There was an office. I think there was an office just still standing there in Woodland downtown, and but there's a big community that follows it. And what they do is they invite basket weavers, the ones that were dying and disappearing, and it gave them the ability to be focus knowledge on them so that they can teach their descendants. So now at this point, we got a nice group of community teachers that are there. Don Hankins is one of them with the fire community. He actually learned how to make baskets due to Kathy Wallace, who was there doing Hupa baskets, and her knowledge was so deep. I mean, she was wonderful. She could say, "Oh, well, you're Miwok. Well, then I can. You wouldn't do it this way. You would do it that way." You know what I mean? Because she was a basket weaver that knew the hardest technique, which I think would be Hupa, to be able to weave on the inside of the basket, where it's the same design in the inside as it is on the outside. You know, I think their cooking baskets and everything were a little bit smaller. You know, it's a colder temperature they're in, you know, where California Indians can make a big basket for everybody to eat out of. You know, and so you had big shared baskets that were big. We had one, and it did have the burn marks at the bottom, you know, which showed how you push the rocks inside. You know, so there are clues to everything. I mean, why would you do that weave on the inside if it's going to get burnt eventually off? You know what I mean? So there are keys to everything in all of the baskets on that, you know, and the way it's made. There's a reason for it, you know. So it's very, very particular. I asked someone about my basket because it had a rip in it. And, you know, this is a story I think I have time for. A basket that had a rip in it, and it was a cooking basket. And I was sad about it, you know, and the rip in it. And I go, how could it get ripped? She goes, well, someone made acorn out of it when I told them not to, because it's a retired basket. And I'm going, retired? What does that mean? I go, people retire. How does a basket retire? I don't get that. She goes, well, it means that it's already done its job. It's already done its job. Now we can love it and look at it. And it doesn't have to cook anymore, you know, and it's alive. The basket is alive. Yeah. And its spirit can leave, and it could join the other spirits, other basket spirits, and come back. And it doesn't have to worry about it being destroyed. It has a home to come back to, which the basket was its home, its spirit's home. Pretty. And they would say that when they made the baskets and sang while making the baskets, they're putting life into the basket as they make it. Just some real beautiful, deep thoughts, you know? And so I'm like, wow. I go, so it's ripped. And so is its spirit not coming back to it anymore? She goes, no, it comes back. It's just a little angry at how it got caused, how it happened. And I go, well, how did it happen? She goes, I don't know. She didn't really tell me. Maybe she didn't want to blame anybody. But that basket would always, its spirit would always come out and be mischievous around the house. So that was like some of my first visits by spirits, was me staying up late doing homework, and all of a sudden something walking behind me and standing there and then walking away. And I'd think, I'm really intense, you know, this, I can't look up and see what's going on. I'd be up late at night. So who did I wake up with my lights on? And then if finally I'd look, there'd be nobody there. And then I think, okay, they left. And then I would be like, did you get up in the middle of the night and look at me while I was doing my work last night? You know, I'd be asking that question. They go, no. And then I go, how come no one said yes? And I asked everybody in the house. And so one day it happened, and I followed it, and it led me that, you know, by hearing where it went. It led me to a closet. And I was looking at the closet door and I'm going, what? It was a mirror, the kind of open and close, those kind of doors. I'm looking at, why is there something hidden in here? I don't get it. And so I asked them the next day and I told my aunt, hey, I got led right here, Chris, right here. And the reason why it got to that point was she goes, did you wake up and look at me in the middle of the night and walk away? She asked me that. And I go, no. I go, but I'll tell you what, it led me here, because I followed it one night and it led me here to your door. And I'm really weirded out on why it led me here. And she opened up the door and then she looked down and she's seen a soapwood brush. So she picked up this soapwood brush and she was like, oh, dang it, why is it there again? And she put it down. And then she reached up in the top, pulled down this garbage bag, and she pulled out of it this big, beautiful cooking basket that had a rip in it. And she took the brush and put it back in it and then wrapped it all up and put it back in the shelf. And I go, what was that? What was that? And she goes, it always ends up on the ground. And then, and then I either put it back there or I put it in the window. And next thing I know, I'll put it back in there. And the next thing I know, it's on the ground again somewhere. And then I go, oh, well, that's, she goes, I go, well, you know what? I asked my grandma about that. And I think it's the spirit of that basket and it doesn't like that brush. And she looked at me funny. And then she goes, okay. Then she took it down, took the brush out, put it in the window where she preferred it. And then she goes, you take care of it. That basket.
Well, that makes me think it's not that far of a stretch from thinking if people have had experiences with like a spirit of a person that's passed.
Antique,
it's really, if you think about it, like there's life force that goes through any living thing, plants, in any sentient, any living being. So why wouldn't any living being have whether you think of it as energetic presence or spirit? It's not that far of a stretch for the Western mind that didn't grow up with that.
Yeah, I was going to say the only difference is that Western mind does not understand that at all. And it, so to me, living with spirits like that and so-called haunted houses was just knowing what they are. Knowing what the spirits are around for. And so anyway, that's why Chris got a little frightened, like, oh, it's got spirits. I'm a little scared of it. And then I ended up like taking it, looking at it, and I'm going, oh, this red bud on it has this stuff on it. What is that? It had this like mold on it or something, the red bud. And so I took it to a basket, a person who looks at it and puts a value on it. It was in Folsom West Coast Traders or something like that. They used to have the guy that worked there would do that. So I took the basket to him and he was like, oh, it's beautiful. He goes, that's no problem. All you have to do is put that in the sun. Put that basket in the sun. It'll kill that bacteria right there. In your basket. Then all you do is brush it off with its brush. Do you have a brush? And he said that to me. And I go, well, it had a brush. It probably thought the brush was lazy because it wasn't cleaning it.
Lazy brush.
Yeah. And so I did the whole thing and got it all fresh looking. And it looked beautiful as ever. And it was happy at that moment. But then I started wondering who did the brush. Maybe something happened and it didn't like the brush. I don't know. But then I was looking through old pictures and I found this picture of my grandma's, one of my grandma's best friends, Potts, Maria Potts. She actually was a politician and she actually cooked prepared acorn and made baskets at one time. And that was one of her best friends. And so I seen a picture of her lifting the basket with acorn in it with a rip in it. And so I was thinking, oh, that's who ripped the basket. And I'm going, oh no, Grandma, look it. I showed her the picture. And she was going, oh yeah, that's forgivable for her to do that. Yeah. He goes, but so it didn't like the brush. I get it. Maria Potts made the brush. That was a gift from her. So I go, so I won't
Wow.
use that brush on it. I'll make a new one for it. So it was all very interconnected, and so that basket started being
Mm.
happy again,
What a broad perspective to just see
And
the
Mhm.
interconnection.
I
And I'm
know it.
hearing a story of discipline in all of this as well, because there's so much listening that is happening, right,
Yeah.
Diana? That you were
Mhm.
listening to the basket, which is what you're asking us to do, is to
Yeah.
listen to each other, is giving respect to every being, including the basket, which is like human or non-human. And that is one of the fundamental lessons in discipline that I've learned from you, is that every being, and every object has value and should be treated with respect, and then tempering our curiosity, because you were curious, or there's curiosity, but when there's that curiosity tempered with humility and with listening and with respect, then that's where discipline surfaces, right?
Yeah. I just love how he explains things so well. You do that
He's
so
been
good.
listening. He's
Yeah.
been listening.
That story
Yeah.
is such a
Well,
beautiful story.
it is so beautiful. And I just thinking of, just because the time is passing so quickly, we have about 10 more minutes. I just want to make sure, Diana, you bring to our attention anything in particular you want me to learn or pay attention to, or listeners or viewers, in the next few minutes, so we can
Yeah.
tune in more carefully.
Yeah. I guess what a message I really need to get out there is what we really worked hard on is to reclaim the wetlands. It's because so much wetlands has been just taken apart, padded down, filled with dirt and drained, and so that's really causing an imbalance of health in the water and in the environment and even in the ocean. At least California with our Tule Delta is preventing lots of garbage from going into the ocean, some garbage. I guess cruise ships probably put most of that garbage out there. Anybody traveling like that, because they just dump it. But when it comes to the California coast and all up around it and all the water, what goes in the water travels through that wetlands and it filters it,
Yeah.
and so it puts good water in at one time. But now it's putting a variety of garbage, and the worst garbage you can have is that methylmercury water. Methylmercury that is traveling down from an open mine left open during the gold rush, and it's above Clear Lake, and it's contaminating Clear Lake. It's not clear anymore. It's contaminating the water at a point that is killing a lot of things, and the water just goes into Napa, goes into Cache Creek, and Bear Rivers, all the creeks that stem from that, and it just goes down, and whoever is living in it, and I'm talking about like animals, it can make them very, very sick and die off.
And the
And
Cache Creek Basin is the largest contributor of mercury downstream all the way to the Bay Area.
yeah, so that's what really needs to be out there, and ask questions and be aware, because I've been out there in that, and I just don't know. It's scary thought, to actually one day breathe that I don't want to. And by making deep water channels, that's the big worst thing that can happen. And that's what Cemex mine is coming in to do. And Cemex is just going all through California and doing mines here and there, and it's a tragedy. It's
And they do gravel mining, just to
yeah,
in the
yeah.
Cache Creek
And
Basin. Yeah.
that's the gravel mining using it, saying it's local. They use it local, but it's being sold for big money everywhere. And it's considered the best gravel for cement. And the worst thing for the environment is to make cement. That's the worst, what do they call it? The carbon producer of climate change is making cement in general. And, so I have a lot of questions about it, and I had a lot of thoughts, ways to change that, do habits that we could do. And one
Well,
is,
yeah, please tell us.
replace wetlands, which is something that that little tending and gathering garden can only handle what enters it and releases it. It doesn't clean the whole. It's not the whole cleaner of all the water, but it can handle that, and that goes straight into the Sacramento which is good. It goes somewhere. It goes underneath the Yolo Basin. Oh no, not the Yolo Basin. The what is that called over there? Over Woodland, connects Woodland in Sacramento. The
bypass.
The Yolo bypass.
The Yolo bypass, right?
Yeah, the one there that leaves Woodland.
Right.
That water would have that clean stuff in it. That would go to the farm, whatever they're growing there, and then it will go into the Sacramento River. But waters coming down the American River probably don't get as cleaned. The San Joaquin was so full of clean way of delivering clean water to that, and for it to be eroded and taken out, but it's been replaced. It's just something that we got to be aware of, is the invertebrates that live and have that symbiotic relationship with Tule and cattail. That's what we need to do. And so that's what we've been doing, is out teaching about them, the invertebrates.
For people who want to come to like publicly open classes or call to actions, who will call representatives or write letters or potentially show up, is that what YOLO Soul is about? And
yeah. YOLO Soul. Yeah, we're the ones that can find that and send the information out.
I mean, you can go on our website to yolosol.org, YOLOSOL.org, or you can join our, this is not a YOLO Soul project necessarily, but a lot of YOLO Soul members are involved in the Creek Protectors Alliance, which is a coalitional space that we are building to get people involved in speaking up for the creeks and for the waterways and for the wetlands in the YOLO bioregion. And so you can follow the Creek Protectors Alliance on Instagram at the Creek Protectors Network. Yeah.
Because they're the ones that got their foot in the water there in the creeks. Yeah, and then keep us informed. But we want to do tests on these sites, and do a broader network of it. So
how much cooperation are you getting? We have about 3.5 minutes left from the state or state agencies, or is anybody trying to hold the account, the corporations to account?
We try to get out there, but we have to be able to feel comfortable to be able to reach out, and not feel like they're gonna get angry at us for saying, oh, you're make a mountain out of a molehill kind of thing, and then call us names.
Right.
We need to be able to work with them. We know this is happening. Is there other ways to work on this? And I know at UC Davis, working with Jeff Artado, he's going around with different conferences, talking with the invertebrate people who know that stuff, and try to do this kind of work on land in different places as well. So working with Audubon too, and the Yolo Conservancy Habitat, and working with them. So anyway, so these are the different things I'm doing, and you can always find me at YOLO Soul. And you can
write to us as well at info@yolosol.org if you want to connect with us. That is another email address you can write to be connected with Diana and her work.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to add, the recent Samex mine permit that was granted, we had a great mobilization. So many people showed up to speak up for the creek. And because of that, 100 acres were set aside for restoration.
Wetlands.
For wetlands after the mining, which is,
30 years.
30 years. But still, that's a start. And I think we have to do more education. The movement is growing. Diana's work is, like she said, she's working with so many different communities through working with Jeff and her to kind of teach them about the cultural importance and the ecological importance of the wetlands, right? So that we can see and generate a love for the wetlands, so that we can all speak up for them.
Yeah, if we don't even know what they do,
here's
letting us know.
The invertebrates, mosquitoes are there like grazers. Everything eats the mosquitoes. So the mosquitoes don't even get a chance to fly away. Maybe every once in a while. You can't even find mosquitoes in the Tending Garden or the Yellow Basin in Sacramento and Davis. Between that, you wouldn't be able to find a mosquito, because they get ate up pretty good. But that's it. Is healthy wetlands produces a healthy amount of mosquitoes, which usually all get eaten. If it's bad water, mosquitoes can survive. They can handle living in a tire. When water gets in a tire, fish can't do that. They'll die. They don't have any oxygen. They can develop their own oxygen. Mosquitoes can. They have those kind of movement around them to where they can breathe.
But they don't survive in fresh running water, which is what we need in wetlands, right?
Mosquitoes do not survive in fresh running water. If there's nothing else anybody can retain,
something is going to eat it.
Wonderful. Well, we are out of time. Let me repeat it: info@yolosoul.org. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's our email.
And Diana Almendariz is beyond an encyclopedia. That's just incredible. We just got a glimpse of how much you know. Thank you so much for being here with her and all the support. I also want to thank, and Diana, thanks so much for calling me and anytime.
Okay.
And I want to thank the listeners and viewers and our engineer, Rebel, and our producer, Dean K. Piper. And may we tune in next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And may we all have enriching conversations and diversity this week and build those relationships with respect and trust and discipline.
Yeah. Thank you.
Stay well, everyone. Take care.
Bye.